If you have real value to offer the market, but you've been waiting for your niche to finally feel clear, this is the bit that's probably keeping you parked. And I've coached hundreds of experts through finding their niche. And today I'm going to show you the framework that gets you moving even before you feel ready. And if this hits home and it's something you've been struggling with, then you might even be realizing that your niche probably isn't going to arrive from another afternoon staring at a blank Google document. So I made you something really useful. It's called a free niche finder. You're going to answer 5 questions about what you've spent however many years doing, and it'll help name the focus that's already sitting there. So grab it below, do the 5 questions, and then follow along with this video so you can get started on finding your niche. So now let's get into it. A lot of smart experts really struggle with finding their niche because they find themselves in what I call the cycle of indecision. So they start thinking, and then they're like, you know what? I should probably do some more research. So they do more research, and then they're like, you know what? Maybe I should work on my website a little bit more. Lots of perfectionism amongst high achieving experts, if you're anything like me. And then you're in inaction. That runs into self-doubt. You start doubting yourself. You're like, well, maybe I'm not really good at this. Maybe I can't really do it. Maybe I don't know if I know enough. Maybe it's too late for me. All of those stories that we tell ourselves. So then what happens is we end up in this cycle of indecision. A cycle of indecision, which is really frustrating. And I don't want that to happen to you, because when you start thinking and you're thinking, and they use this other side, you're thinking, and then you're like, oh, maybe the thinking will get me there. And the research, maybe I'll talk to a bunch of people that aren't even in my target market and see what they say. And you might even run across a few naysayers, which can be discouraging. And it's often not accurate of what you're capable of and what your potential is. And then you're kind of stuck in perfectionism. And I think for so many smart experts, especially women, I can speak from my own experience, perfectionism is something that's all around us, right? We see everybody's perfect newsfeed and perfect business and perfect lives, and we compare ourselves, and that also can leave us just stuck in this cycle of indecision, which again results in inaction. We don't want to do it incorrectly. We have all this perfectionism running in our head, so we just don't take action. And that inaction results in self-doubt, because one of the best things we can do to build confidence in ourselves is to take action and do what it is that we said that we set out to do. So then when we run into the self-doubt, then we start thinking even more. And again, this is where a lot of smart experts just struggle with that cycle of indecision. But you end up kind of thinking, well, I need to have this niche. And what I'm going to say is, in the beginning stages, if you're under $10,000 a month, stop worrying about your niche and start worrying way more about your pitch. What are we saying to people when we first start reaching out to them? And that's what I want you to focus on. So in that sequence, there's usually 3 stages that businesses go through when they're first figuring out what their offer should be and where they should be niching. The first is the 0 to 10K a month stage. So in that 0 to 10K a month stage, what I want you to focus on is not your niche, but how you're going to pitch people so you can get your first customers. So I call this the customer first stage. Customer first means that you're hyper focused on the people that are in front of you, the people that you know, the businesses that you're connected to, that maybe you frequent, even as a customer yourself, and really getting to know what their issues and their problems are. And a lot of people underestimate who's in their network, who already knows, likes, and trusts you. That's the people that you want to start talking about. And you want to hyper focus on what is it they're struggling with. Because if you come to them with a preset offer that is totally prescripted in advance, you may be leaving a lot of money on the table, even with things that you could reasonably help them with that would solve some of the biggest problems that are keeping them up at night. Then once you've gotten to 10K a month, once you've gotten to your first 6 figures a year, then we could start thinking about, okay, what's that offer first approach? That's when we can start productizing it. We can start looking at what's happening with these clients that I've already made money with. What are some of the things that I can rinse and repeat? What are some of the patterns that I can recognize and I can put into a productized offer? And that usually happens in the 10 to 30K a month range, because at that point you have enough data points, you have some proof of concept around your offer, and you have cash flow. And cash flow solves pretty much every single problem in business. So that validates your offer, it gives you confidence, and it gives you the ability to start looking for, again, patterns. And then once you can say, okay, I've done this well multiple times, I see that this is an issue again and again, that's when we go to an audience first approach. And that's usually when you're at 30K or more. That's when you want to start bringing your offer out to an audience, and you can have so much confidence that it is not a waste of your time to start putting it out there because you already have experience and you already have success with that offer with the clients that you began working with in stage one. What happens is a lot of people move right to audience first, immediately out of the gate, and they get discouraged. Especially if you're an experienced expert, you're probably used to bringing in a certain level of income to your household. So if you start just going out there and building an audience and start creating all these offers and start putting content out there and money isn't coming in, it is going to be very discouraging. So that's why I recommend following these steps in this order. So how do you again find that initial offer that you want to start working with? How do you get to that first 10K a month? Well, you're going to do that in 3 different ways. The first way is you're going to initiate conversations. So I have a really great video that talks about the 3 questions that you should be asking if you want to start initiating conversations with business owners that you might know. You can check it out. I'll just put it right above so you can reference it. But what you want to do is you want to just ask good questions. A lot of times people think that being a great business owner, being a great advisor is about saying the right things. And I want to challenge that. It is about being a master question asker. You want to think of yourself as like an investigative reporter. How can I learn more about the things that they're struggling with in their business and approach it from a place of genuine curiosity? And I'll tell you, business owners will love that. When you ask them 3 questions that I recommend asking to first open up that conversation, they will see you as somebody who they can trust just from being a great listener. So you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to overfunction. You don't have to overperform. You just have to ask really good questions. And then this shouldn't surprise you. You can make offers to help. And as you hear a lot of what they're struggling with, you are going to say, gosh, I really was wondering whether or not I can help other businesses. But now, as I'm getting to know them, I'm realizing there's so much that I could actually help with. Now I need help narrowing it down, which is a good problem. That means that you could reasonably stay with them for a long period of time and having them as a client. And all of this in the middle is your pitch. So there's a funny story that I want to share with you along the lines of a pitch. I am a baseball mom. My son is on 2 travel teams and he's one of 3 kids. So if you're in that season of life, or even if you had a travel baseball kid, let me know in the chat below. I would love to hear from you. But there was a recent game that I was watching on Game Changer. And if you know anything about travel baseball, Game Changer is the app where you can watch every single play happen real time. It's amazing. So I was with my other 2 kids getting them dinner. My husband was with my baseball player son, and I'm watching all of this take place. So my son is a middle infielder. He is really, really good at it. It's where he's been practicing for many years, and he's well trained in that position. And I look down at Game Changer and I see my son is playing center outfield. So I text my husband, oh my gosh, what is he doing in center outfield? He's not an outfielder. Why is he out there? Why does the coach have him there? In which I'm going back and forth with my husband, and my husband texts me back and says, well, it looks like he's pretty good at center outfield. And I look down at my phone and he made 2 great plays in a row, of which I responded, sounds like I should probably stay out of all of this. The story being is that sometimes you don't even know what you're great at until you put yourself in the position of actually having conversations and making offers to help. That's why it's so important in the early stages that you don't over-engineer your offer before you even make offers to help. So now you might be wondering, well, once I start having these conversations and I pitch these clients and I start finding momentum, how do I find my niche? Well, it's going to happen in 3 different ways. So the most important thing that I want you to know is that your niche or your niche, tomato, however you want to say it, comes from the market. It doesn't come from researching. It doesn't come from overthinking. It doesn't come from getting stuck in perfectionism and doubting yourself. It comes from the market. But it only comes from the market once you get started. So as you are looking at, well, how do I know what my offer should be long term? You want to look at who says yes. So who's saying yes to you? Not just their demographics, the type of businesses that they have, but their psychographics. What are the things that they're struggling with? What are their fears, desires, goals, dreams? That's really important to pay attention to. And then what you want to look at is what they hire you for. So you might be good at a lot of different things. If you are an experienced expert, you probably are. But the thing you really want to pay attention to is, what are they hiring you for? Again and again, what are some of those problems that you're seeing repeatedly? Which gets to repeated problems. So again, what are those patterns? What are those repeated problems that occur within the work that you're doing that you could replicate moving forward? And that's why I'm such a big fan of you creating your own offer this way. So for so many of you, I could hand you my offer, or other people could hand you their offer, and you could plug and play in your business and do the exact marketing that they do. And it won't work the same exact way for you because you have your own unique perspective. You have your own goals and passions and the things that you love that you're uniquely gifted at. And then the businesses that you're connected to may have a unique set of problems. That's why I want to train you in a process, but not necessarily in a done for you offer. Because if you have used other people's offers and just tried to plug them into your business and they didn't work as well, that's probably why. Bringing you through this process is what's going to generate not only cash flow, but confidence. So that's when you're going to be developing, when this happens within that 10 to 30K a month range, this is where you're going to be developing an offer that you can go to the market with at scale. So recently, when I was coaching one of our students inside of Expert Freedom, which is our amazing community and program that we have that moves experts through these 3 phases, one of the students came to me and she said, well, Laura, I'm really trying to figure out my niche. I'm trying to figure out what my offer should be, which is a very common question, of which I like to ask a lot of questions back because I want to give people a thoughtful response. So I said, well, have you made money in your business yet? So that helps me identify if there's any patterns that she has found so far that we could rinse and repeat. And she said, well, yes, I've had one engagement. I went through the quick start program that we have inside of Expert Freedom, and I implemented some of the suggestions, and I got a $50,000 client. And I said, well, that's awesome. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that client. And she said, well, it was just a board of directors that was struggling with their executive director within a nonprofit. And they hired me to try to help that executive director create and implement a strategic plan. And I said, well, can we do more of that? I mean, if you think about it, if you can get 4 of those, that's a $200,000 a year business with 4 clients. That's pretty high profit margin that really leverages your experience and your time in a way that doesn't expand your hours. And she said, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought of that before. So really smart person. It's just sometimes you're so close to it. It's hard to see that whoever says yes to you and what they hire you for probably would result in repeated problems of similar other organizations and businesses. And so she went out into the market and she found success selling that offer on repeat. Once you have this offer, so when you have additional clients and when you've started to see patterns and when you've started to see your offer emerge, that's when it's time to bring it out to the masses. This is where you can create multiple revenue streams of essentially the same offer, but for different levels of sophistication in the market. And you can begin bringing your offer to many, many, many people, knowing that this is something that you've already done well. You can create content and from a place of confidence, again, knowing that this is something you've already gotten hired for and that people want you to solve for them. And this is where, again, a lot of people skip right to this stage. They start creating landing pages, they start creating content, they start creating funnels when they haven't made any money yet. And this can be paralyzing. It's a tremendous amount of work. And what's difficult about starting in that place is that you might not feel fully confident yet because you haven't made any money yet. So people can sense that in your communication and in your content. That's why I think it's so much better to start with an audience first approach. Then start to productize your offer and refine your offer. And then scale with a one-to-many type of communication and marketing strategies with an offer that you know works really, really well for the people that you love to serve. And it fits all of those boxes. It's something that you're passionate about. It's something that the market needs. It's patterns that you have already solved multiple times. And then when you go out with your one-to-many offer and you start selling maybe multiple revenue streams, that's where you could sell a group program or a course. You do it from a place of experience. And that's where you can scale. You can scale from $10,000 to $20,000 a month to $20,000 to $30,000 a month. And this is where you're really going to start seeing your ability to scale well past $30,000 a month because you're no longer working one-on-one with clients. You can work in a way that's one-to-many. This is my path to multi-seven figures, and it's my path doing it working just part-time hours. And if you've been listening to lots of different people online, this is something that is very unique to my approach. I'm all about starting with freedom. So within that first zero to $10,000 a month, that's why I think it's so important to start with a customer first approach. This is what's going to help you cash flow, and this is what's going to help you build confidence. Then when you're at $10 to $30,000 a month, you can start understanding where you can uniquely fit into the market based on that experience and pattern recognition. Once you get to 30 or 40 or $50,000 a month, that's when you can start bringing your offer out to the masses and developing additional revenue streams. In the next video, I'm going to share with you my 7-figure roadmap. I hope it's really helpful to you, and I'll see you over there.